Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Creating Your Desired Life with me, your host, Dr. Esther Graham. I am so super excited to be with you today because we are speaking about a very, I believe, uh, powerful topic. Of course, I think all of the topics are powerful when it comes to, creating our desired life. But today we're going to speak on how do you heal yourself? Right? What does soul love means? How do you actually heal yourself? And I have a very special guest today, Melissa Brown, a therapist. She has been a therapist and in this field for over 28 years. She is a spiritual coach and does so much more, hosts retreats that really facilitates healing. And so I'm super excited to introduce you to my friend, Melissa Brown. But before I do that, I just want to share with you my story to really healing myself and still on the path of healing. I just have a personal belief that I am healed. I am being healed and I shall be healed. I am healed because there's so many things that I'm healed from. But as I continue to live and as you continue to live, you'll find that things will happen that you'll realize, oh, wait a minute, I still need to be healed from this, right? So I am healed. I am being healed and then I shall be healed. That if any hurt or any pain or anything I recognize in the future lets me know that I shall be healed. Because why? I am a creative being. I am walking every day. I'm living every day. And as life continues, and as I chose to embrace the wholeness of life, as I chose to embrace creating my desired life, I realize that healing is very much a pathway that I must continue every day. So I am healed. I'm being healed right now, and I shall be healed. I remember uh, when I was really in a place, everything was going great in my life, but something was really missing. There were things that I could not figure out what was going on. There were things that I thought, my soul is in pain. I used to use the word, my heart hurts. And what I realized with that, there was some healing that I needed to do. There was some forgiveness that I needed to do. And at one point in my life, I thought, I can't forgive this person because if I forgive them, um, they will take it for granted. And what I realized that forgiveness isn't really for them. Forgiveness is for me. And as I forgive, then I am becoming healed myself. And so on my journey to self healing, I began to look at what was really going on the inside of Esther. Remember, I always talk about that we live in two worlds. We have the inner world and we have the outer world. It's the inner world that we control. We control our inner world. And so realizing that about myself, I realized that I had to go on the path of healing. I had to now look and say, how can I heal myself? Many times we look for God to heal us. We may look for a physician to heal us. We look at all of these outer things to heal us. When really we have to look within ourselves and we have to be on the path to say, I realize that I need to be healed from my past trauma, from my past pain, from things that may have happened in my childhood in order for me to move forward, to up level, to move happily in life. There's some healing that has to take place. And so when I went on my journey of healing, I sought out not just a therapist, I got a coach. I did everything I could because I knew what I needed on the inside. And my journey to healing has brought me to the point to where I am right now, where I can say I am healed, I am being healed, and I shall be healed. The things that affected me in the past, the things that hurt me in the past no longer has precedence in my life. Why? Because I went on the journey of self-healing, realizing, right, that I had to be in partnership with God for my healing to take place. I couldn't leave it up to him. I couldn't leave it up to a doctor. For example, you're going to a doctor because maybe you've got an ailment, but the doctor also gives you a step plans to where you can also facilitate your own healing. And so this is a conversation, everyone, about how can you be on the road to where you are now in control. You are in control of your healing. So let's bring Melissa Brown on, and she's going to share a little bit more about herself. She's going to tell you a little bit about her company, and we're going to get into some deep conversations about healing yourself. So Melissa Brown, welcome to Creating Your Desired Life. Yay, let's welcome it on. Yay. Melissa, please reintroduce yourself. I just did a very brief interview. I'm so super excited to have you in Creating Your Desired Life. I'm super excited about the conversations that we are going to have. But share a little bit about what you do in the world.
Yes. Well, first, let me say thank you so much, Dr. Esther, for having me on your show to share with your viewers. I am so excited about this topic. As you said, I am Melissa Brown. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm an ordained minister. I'm a spiritual coach, and I work in this beautiful sanctuary that I call Soul Love. I have had the privilege of creating a soul love community where I can offer healing and wholeness to women who have a desire for more in their life. And I'm doing work privately in groups. I know you mentioned that I do retreats. So all of the things that I love wrapped up into one. And I'm just so honored that I get to do that work. I'm honored to be here with you today to talk more about what it means to be healed, what it looks like on a day-to-day basis to be human and whole. So thank you so much for having me.
I love what you said, to be human and whole, and that a lot of what you do is focusing around women, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
healing, And so let's start there. Let's talk about, what does soul love means? What does that mean, first of all?
When I thought of that name, Soul Love, I thought about so many of the people that I work with, and even in my own journey, where we are conditioned in life to get a great job, have a family, do all of the things, buy a home, have a dog, a white picket fence,
Yeah,
all of those, kind of accoutrements of
yeah,
life where
yeah,
you're checking boxes. And when I had a private practice, women would come to me, and this was in the DC area. So lots of people who were doing very well in their career, doing well, living in the best neighborhoods, all of the things that they were told and conditioned to have to equal success or their best life. And one by one, I would hear over and over again, but I'm still not happy.
yeah, yeah.
I got all of the things that everyone said I should get, but I don't understand why I wake up every day with this sense of sadness and
Yeah,
a sense of dread. And so what I realized is that happiness is an inside job.
yeah,
And so because we are humans, but we are also spirit,
yeah.
and that there are things that need to speak to your spirit, need to speak
Mm,
to your soul. And so even in creating soul love, I began to think about, what does it mean for your life to be like, mm,
mm.
amen,
Yeah,
like soul
yeah.
food, like
So
good
good.
to your soul,
Yeah.
not just all the things other people think you should have, but what does your soul actually long for?
I love what you say. It's good like soul food, because we all know soul food is so good. So good. Yeah. Yeah.
The food that sticks to you,
Next to
and
you.
not just, fleeting or for a moment, but a
Yeah.
life that you can just settle into and feel like, yes, I'm aligned. This is what the good life looks like, feels like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Soul love. So really soul love is just really going inward. And
Yes.
I like the analogy like soul food. And it's so good and it sticks to you. And this is where you can say, this is what I love and I feel good about this. I
Yeah.
feel good because now my soul is being healed. So as we're talking about soul love, really going inward and appreciating what you have, really, you are your first. The first person you should fall in love with is you,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
For that person who says, I just really want to get there, you know, I thought I really loved myself and I'm discovering
Mm.
maybe not.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh my gosh. It's so common as well, especially if you have been a part of a family or a culture where you maybe perhaps developed a need to please. Particularly when you think about how we grow up, especially if you were taught to kind of check the boxes in life. A lot of times we are checking the boxes not because that's what my soul is longing for, but because we think this is what's going to make my parents proud.
Mm,
This is going to make other people respect me. This
yes,
everything is all of this outer, and
yeah,
we neglect the inner. And
yeah,
so when people get to a place, especially when we talk about healing, there has to be this moment of pause
yeah,
where we stop chasing all of the outside things and you are able to be still and remember your spirit and listen to your spirit and what your soul is longing for. And this is going to blow your mind, Dr. Esther, because so many of the ladies is my average age of client is usually like between 45 and 55. You would be surprised when in that first coaching session, I will ask very often, what do you really want?
yeah.
8 out of 10 people can't answer that
Can't answer that. Yeah.
because life has been so much about what somebody else wants for
Mm,
them
yes.
that it almost brings women to tears that they're like, it's been so long since someone asked me what I want.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the healing process is the ability to even pause and pay attention to you
Yeah.
and what's been missing.
Yeah. That what you're saying is just so powerful because as I reflect and think, I think about myself and that, yeah, always wanting to please everyone, to do everything. Listen, my husband and I are in ministry, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I spent so much of my time trying to be everything that everybody else wanted to have. Got to be that good wife, that good pastor's wife, that good minister, that good everything. That at one point, I just became very resentful. And that's what
Yes.
happens because
Yes.
we become resentful. You know what I mean? I was like, what? Not, and it wasn't my husband's fault. And really, it wasn't anybody else's fault. It was my fault because what I was doing was, successful, doing all these things, pleasing everyone and not looking inward and saying, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what does Esther want?
Yeah. And just to extend some grace to you, you
Yeah.
were probably conditioned that way.
Oh, 100%.
So we
100%
don't even
conditioned that way.
know
We
that it's
don't.
okay to ask what I want.
Hmm.
Protect, especially depending on your religious conditioning. We
Yeah.
are taught to be servants. Like you said, you
Yes.
and your husband are in ministry. So we are taught that to be a servant means everyone else's needs come before my own.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
that's not really true. We won't
It's
go
not.
into, you
It's
know,
not.
because you
Yeah.
can only love people as much as you love yourself.
Yes.
And so if
Yes.
I'm not even paying attention to myself, then my love that I extend to anyone else is limited.
And you don't realize that it is limited until, all of these things, what
Yeah.
you're saying is extending grace. Y'all, sometimes we don't even realize where we are. It wasn't until, for me, again, driving, crying,
Because your
crying in the
soul
car,
knows,
you know,
your
the
soul will wait.
soul always knows. The soul always knows. And I'm crying. It's like, wait a minute, Esther, you're crying, driving, crying. And then you get to your location.
Yep.
you know,
Uh-huh.
and you walk in like,
Like
hey,
it didn't
everything is
happen.
so,
Like I
like
said.
nothing happened, when you just finished, you fix your makeup back,
Yep.
you're trying to,
And we just
hi,
continue on. And
yes,
that's why I
yes.
say that the healing process begins with a pause. It begins with a decision to not
Mhm.
ignore your tears,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
not just wipe your face, put lipstick on, and
Put
keep it
lipsticks on and
moving,
keep it
but
moving.
to really be still
Yeah.
and begin to inquire within yourself,
Mm.
to acknowledge that I am a spirit. I am not just, a person who's doing. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And in my human experience, I've been wounded along the way. I've ignored the desires of my own heart in exchange for someone else's desires. And
Yes.
it takes a moment, a sensitive and empathetic moment, particularly us as women. We're so good at being so nurturing and empathetic
Mhm.
to others. This is about being empathetic to you.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
same way we would sit with a good girlfriend who
Mhm.
we know when she says nothing's wrong and everything is wrong,
Yeah,
and we sit there and we hold her hand while she allow herself to open it up. We get to do that with ourselves,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where you just
It's yeah, it's, I going back, taking that pause, and that's what I had to do. I had to take the pause and say, "Whoa, why am I crying? What's going on?" Going back
what's going on.
inward and beginning to see where I am, was and getting to that place to where even, Melissa, that you can be honest with yourself and say, "Wait a
Yes,
minute."
yes,
It
yes,
takes
yes, yes.
honesty. Sometimes it's brutal
Yes, emotional
because
honesty is essential.
yeah, it's so essential because what happens if we're not going to do that, then we're still living under the facade. Now
Right.
we're believing our own,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
it's like going to the doctor, knowing you're in pain,
Hmm.
and but you tell them the wrong thing. I'm not going to tell you where I really really hurt, and if you
Yeah.
can't acknowledge where you are really hurting, you can't heal.
You cannot. I have to tell everyone, I have to tell you the story of my mother because what she's saying is going to the doctor. My mother, she passed away in 2020 and lived of natural causes, just lived a great life. But sometimes she would be ill and we would take her to the doctor, like rush her. I remember one time in particular, we rushed her in the ER because she's not feeling well. But the doctor steps in and the doctor says, "Sheila, how are you feeling? Where's your pain?" "Oh, I'm good, doctor." I'm like, "No, you're not." No, you're Why do we do that?
Because so many of us have learned over time that somehow it is a form of weakness to acknowledge that we are hurting. And it is not a form of weakness, it's really a sign of your humanity to be able to acknowledge that this is hurting my heart, that I'm overwhelmed, that although I seem to have it all together, there's a pain right here. And to give attention to that as opposed to ignore, because we know in the medical profession, when you ignore the initial signs, it doesn't go away because we don't give it attention. No, it spreads. So a lot of times people will come to me because they think it's an issue in their marriage. They think it's an issue with my boss.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that the sadness has spread.
Like a disease, like
Yes.
cancer. Like
Yes.
cancer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the path to self-healing, how would one say, if someone is saying, I'm hearing what you're saying, I hear you,
Yeah.
but how do I begin this journey? Because it
Mhm.
is a journey of
It
self-healing,
is. It is.
especially when you've not recognized it before, when or you may have, but you just don't know how to begin. How do we begin this healing of self journey? For me, I just jumped in because I was like, you know what? I can no longer live like this. I've got all these wonderful things. I cannot show up like this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
In other words, when I say I cannot show up like this anymore, I can't show up with and from the inside with a smile on my face and everything when I know I'm in pain and I'm just trying to muddle through. right? I've got to recognize where I am and then go in. So I jumped in. But how
Mhm.
does someone who's like, how do you jump into self-healing?
Yeah, that's such a great question because there's so many entry points. Sometimes we can do it the way you did, especially if you can point to whenever I'm in this situation, my body is tight, I feel agitated, unhappy, and you can start there. If there's like so much generalized unhappiness and I just don't feel like myself, a great exercise to do is write down your top 5 values.
Mm-hmm.
I just did this with a group. We were meeting, having a live event. I had them write down their 5 joys, 5 things in your life that bring you joy, and your top 5 values. And so if your value is family and loyalty or peace or
Yeah.
growth, and
Yeah.
then looking at all the things that you actually love, even if you haven't done it in years, but I love to be around people and enjoy good food. I love laughter. I love nature. And
Yes.
being
Yes.
able to take your values and your joy and see where does my current life line up with this?
Yes. Yes.
How does my job line up with
With
this?
this. Oh, yes.
And you will very often find that you are engaged, you are plugged into things that are not aligned with who you are in
Yeah.
your spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't mean you got to blow up everything.
And
Because
I would
again, a lot of
recommend that
times
you don't blow up everything at one
we've been
time.
conditioned to just do the things that others expect.
Yes.
But now comes also the challenging part of healing, the courage that is required to have some conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And those conversations are important to have because
Yes,
part of those conversations is also what helps you in that whole healing journey,
yeah,
right? And what I have found is that when you begin to go on this path of healing and you really begin to go inward, doing the soul work,
yes, yes.
doing
You
the
said
soul
something
work.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when your relationships are so much better. First
yeah,
of all, you say you begin to remove the unhealthy relationships out of your life,
yes,
but then the relationships that are healthy become healthier.
yes.
They become more authentic, pure, I like to say. They're just pure, authentic relationships. Your business, I'm speaking from my personal
Yeah.
experience. Your business becomes that much, you become a better entrepreneur, a better
Everything.
business person. Everything in your life begins to change. Your spirituality grows and becomes stronger. Why? Because you have began this journey of doing soul work.
Yes.
What does
And
that look
my specific, one of the downloads that God gave me during a very challenging time in my life, and I had been doing this work for more than 20 years. But in 2019, I remember being a military spouse. I was living in Korea, South Korea, on literally the other side of the world. So it was challenging for me to do the thing that I loved. And I found myself just in a cycle over. And I said, God, I know all the things that I should be doing. What is going on with me? And God began to reveal soul wounds
Yeah.
because there are some wounds that go deep.
Mm.
So while we just talked about not being in alignment, maybe with your values or different things that I'm not engaged in my joy, but there's also some wounds that go deep, like rejection and abandonment
Mhm.
or self neglect or chaos. Those things that we have been injured, whether it was done intentionally or unconsciously, when we are little girls, little
Yeah.
boys, and
Yeah.
you begin to hurt at a soul level. And
Mm.
from that root creates all these other branches. And so, again, not knowing that the reason why you're really overextending yourself in life is because you have been desiring this affirmation
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
comes from a soul wound of rejection.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you heal at that level, like you said, it's not just fixing the branches and the leaves.
It's not putting a Band-Aid over. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going real deep to the core, because when we really start to look at our patterns, we will find, oh, I've been kind of doing this a long time. And you may
Mhm.
even find, oh, all the women in my family have done this. And that's when you get to decide, are you going to be a pattern breaker?
Yeah, yeah.
It ends with me.
It ends. I love that. Are you going to be a pattern breaker? It ends with me. So then, you know, when we make a decision, I'm going to be the pattern breaker in this. What is it exactly, that you would do to break the pattern? Because one of the things I believe, and I don't believe, I know it's a fact. Well, you have to create new neural
Yes,
pathways. You
yes,
have to do that.
yeah.
So how do we begin to be that pattern breaker? We just can't say, I'm the pattern breaker. We just can't
Yes.
say
No,
it.
no, it's deeper than that. It's very connected to, because a pattern can only form when a belief has been established.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so we have to look at, when did I come to believe that my needs don't matter?
Mm,
And
mm.
again, we would never say that out loud. But if you experience certain things in your childhood, your brain will begin to develop a belief that, oh, people don't care about me anyway.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I have to do this to be loved. I have to perform to get attention.
Yes.
I have to be the best. So we're wondering, why am I so driven, but I'm still unhappy? Because I'm not driven because I really want the goal. I'm driven because I want your affirmation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so once you're able to identify that and recognize, and this is where the spiritual work comes in, to
Yeah.
recognize you're already approved. So
Come
what am I
on.
seeking?
So true. Yeah.
What am I seeking?
Yes.
I'm not the same little girl who was looking for someone to say, good job. I can now speak life unto myself.
Yes.
And like you said, the neural pathway, it's not a one-time event.
It's not.
It now has to become my daily practice. This
Yes.
is the self-love, the self-care. This is deeper than a bubble bath.
It is. It is deeper than a bubble bath. This is something that you're now going deep in the world, and you're going deep in the soul. And what it's doing is also changing your subconscious, which is so hard to change because,
Yes,
and it's changing that. But when that is changed and now your subconscious now is operating differently, then you can as well. And what you'll find is that the healing now will take place to where you'll say, I am healed, I'm being healed, I shall be healed,
yes,
that no matter what happens, listen, I'm on this healing
yes,
journey. I've created these pathways. The habit is now broken, right? And
yes,
so now I can continue on the pathway of healing, and everyone else can see what I'm doing and follow that healing pathway.
yes.
That's really how we break. I want to say, people talk about generational
Mhm,
curses or
mhm.
generational
Family,
patterns,
all that, those are family
habits,
patterns.
family patterns. We can begin to break it. So what I'm hearing you say is, like, the first thing for us to begin to break those patterns to where we can begin to heal ourselves, we can begin to do the soul work that's needed, is number one, recognize it,
Yes,
right? Recognize.
yes. Stop ignoring your feelings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that is very counterculture, because we are often taught to be in logic.
Hmm.
And but when you stay in your brain, you abandon your heart,
Yeah.
you abandon your soul. And so again, you got to show up for the whole of yourself, not just your brain.
Yeah. What
And
would you say to the person that struggles with showing up for themselves? And every time
mhm,
they try to show up for themselves, they revert back to someone else. Or,
yes.
what would you say to that person who just can't lean into themselves being okay? Lean into
Yeah.
showing up for themselves.
I have found this to be so effective. I will ask a person, and because I work primarily with women, and so many of the ladies I work with, they're mothers, they're wives. Like I said, we are lovers. We love hard and deep. And I will ask them to think about their 5-year-old daughter. Think about when your daughter was young. And I want you to think about if she were feeling what you were feeling and how you would treat her. And with that, most people have zero hesitation
Yeah.
about how attentive they would be, how much they would show up for a little 5-year-old. And then I say that 5-year-old is you.
Mhm.
So every time you want to ignore you, I want you to get a picture of the little girl who needs you.
Yeah, yeah.
We
It's
need us.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because at my retreat, so Melissa already knows that I host retreat as well, and our retreats are different yet
Mhm.
similar, But one of the activities I do is that they bring a picture
Yep.
of that little girl. And so
Yeah.
now let's go ahead, let's go back, let's get that little girl, let's rescue that little girl because that little girl
Yes.
is you.
Yes.
That little
That's
girl
it.
is you, and that little girl has always been you. And she's never
Yes.
left you.
Yes. And so,
Yeah.
whenever we are tempted to think that we are not important or
Yeah.
we can wait,
Yeah.
I want us to bring that same energy that we would if it were our daughter, if it were your
Yes.
niece, a
Yeah.
cousin, even if it were a baby girl you didn't even know. If you saw
Yeah.
her in the store, we're so loving, you'd be like, "Baby, what are you crying for?
Yeah.
What's going on? How do we fix
Yeah.
this?" That same energy you are worthy of.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it because we have to first heal ourselves before we can help anybody else.
Yeah.
And then when we do that, then what we're doing for others it comes from such a
Yes.
place, Melissa, you said, and this is something, y'all, I want you to think about it because I do want you to, grab your journals. We're going to be going into our reflection time. Grab your journals and think about what are those 5 things that's bringing you joy?
Hmm.
What are those 5 things? What are your 5 top core values? And are you in alignment with them? So we'll talk about that just a little. But as we close out, tell me, first of all, how could someone reach you? And give our viewers like some quick steps. Listen, get on the path of self-healing right now. 1, 2, 3. What are those 3 things? Boom, 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 that they could implement right away. And how can someone find Melissa Brown?
Awesome. Well, here are just a few steps to begin with. Be still. Be still. Stop moving, 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 moving. The same way we wouldn't go to the doctor and run around the doctor's office, they make you sit down. And sometimes you're sitting in that office by yourself, and the nurses, they said the doctor will be in a minute. And it's in that moment you are there with yourself. And so I want to invite you to just be still. Get off of the hamster wheel. Nothing is more important than you in this moment. And to give yourself, even if it's no more than 15 minutes, to be able to do personal soul level inquiry, to be able to say, where does it hurt? Does it hurt? Is there a loneliness? Is there a discontent? Is there a wound because someone has hurt my feelings? Do I feel invisible, unheard, unseen? Really being able to name, and this is a thing only we can do, name the injury. Nobody's going to see it. Put it in a journal. And then to get committed to allowing yourself to know, what would I desire instead of this? Most of us know what we don't want, but what do I really want? And to give yourself permission to answer that question with no limits, without filtering, without telling yourself you can't have it, that's unreasonable, but to begin to allow yourself, I call it to be in the playground of your mind, to be able to play. This is your one life,
Yeah.
and it deserves to be lived. And so to acknowledge where the hurt is, and then begin to ask myself, what do I really want
Mm-hmm.
in the space of this? And then to have the courage to begin to pursue that step by step, to
Yeah.
be responsible for my own wholeness. It's not dependent on whether or not anyone agrees, but I use my power to say, I now choose to be whole.
I love that. I now choose to be whole. So it is a choice. You have to choose to be whole. How can people reach you, Melissa?
I am on all the socials. You can find me primarily. I do so many videos on Facebook. Um, Melissa Brown, the Soul Love Coach. Melissa Edwards Brown. That's my main page. I'm also on Instagram at Soul Love Coach. I'm on LinkedIn because we need to bring this work to the workplace. So many different spaces. Wherever there is a need for healing, you will
Mhm.
find Melissa Brown, the Soul Love Coach.
I love what you just said, that we need to bring this to the workplace, because when you bring this to the workplace, I want y'all who are out there, think about this. When you bring this, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a CEO, you've got a company, whatever you're doing, when you bring this type of healing to the workplace, to your employees, you get better employees.
Yes, you
You
do.
get employees that are committed to you. You get employees who will work, for lack of a better word,
Who will
work
show up?
harder. They'll show up. Yeah, they will show up. And so it's so important. It's so important. That's one of the things I do with my employees, is that I have a coach for them, that and they're not coaching them on leadership in their jobs. I'm having coaching them on whatever that's going on.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it now for my employees. It's been over a year, almost going on 2 years. And I have seen
Yes.
such a
Yeah.
difference in their performance. It's just,
Yes.
I'm amazed. Like, wow. Why? Because they're getting their soul
So fed. So
fed.
if I'm full, I now have something to give.
Yeah, yeah. I have an employee. This is such a great, powerful conversation with the soul love and the soul. I have an employee that was just so negative,
Mm.
negative. Now, whenever there was an issue, she'd go to the negative before she even saw if there was any positive. And now it's so different. Why? Because what you discover is that many times in their life, they've got so much negativity going on. It's that soul. What has happened in my past, and this is why. And it's like, oh, so let's work on that. When you begin to work on the soul, right? When you
Yeah.
begin to provide that. So I'm glad that you mentioned the workplace, because I think that's a place, that's an area where jobs, where companies
Yes.
really need to help go to, in order to really, it's a benefit. It's a health benefit, let's
Yes.
say, right?
Yes, it is. It
It
is.
really is, for your employees, to have employees that will show up 100% for you every time, every time.
Yes.
So good. So good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
for
Yeah.
sharing. Is there any last words that you would like to leave with our audience today?
I will just share one of my favorite quotes by Rumi, the philosopher. And he says, the wound is where the light enters. And I just want people to keep that in mind. We try so hard to cover up the wound, to hide a wound, to pretend we don't have a wound. But a wound is really your invitation to step into light.
Yes, yes, yeah. The wound is the place where the light enters. I love it. Can you repeat that one more time? The wound is where?
The wound is the place
Yeah.
where the light enters.
And
So if
so we
you are
should not,
feeling in darkness,
yeah,
and there's a lot going on in our world right now. So if you are feeling crunched, if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling suffocating spiritually, to allow yourself to go in, not push back, but to go in, get curious about what your soul truly desires and what you
mm,
need.
mm, mm. This soul work, and thank you so much for sharing. This soul work is powerful work.
Yeah.
It's not work to be taken lightly,
No, it's
because
everything. It's why
it's
we're
everything.
here.
That's why we're here. And don't forget that your life has worth, and so is has worth.
Yeah.
And so the soul work that you're doing is that work that's going to make you live as a whole woman, as a whole person, as a person that really who God created you to be.
Yes.
Living full out, living out
Yes.
loud,
Because
you know.
someone else is waiting on you to be the full version of
Uh,
yourself.
Someone else is waiting on you. Exactly. That is it. So begin that work today. Don't hesitate to do the work. So thank you, Melissa. I appreciate you coming on. God bless you. Such a good conversation, everyone. Let's give Melissa some love. Let's give her some love. Let's give her some love. And we will, of course, I'm going to invite you back because this is good. This is a great conversation.
Absolutely.
And people, we need to do more of this work on a regular, on a daily basis. So thank you again. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome, so welcome. So, Melissa came and she shared such powerful things about, about healing, about really showing up for yourself. And what I would love for you to do is just as that quote said, the wound is the place where the light comes through. Do not cover your wounds. Do not cover your wounds. I just want to take a quick second. As you look at what you are doing in your life, as you look at the areas to where you need healing, begin to really do that inventory. Begin to do that inventory and really begin to do that soul work search, the soul work search. Listen, we'll be right back. So that was the moment of self-reflection and mindfulness. But what I want to remind you that it doesn't stop here. I want you to, again, grab your journals, write your five, just as Melissa said, write your five things. What are five things that bring you joy? And what are your five core values? And as you write those down, are you in alignment with that? And if you're not in 100% in alignment, then there's some work that needs to be done. And if you're saying, well, I think I am in alignment, well, great, but there's still work to be done. In other words, we never live in mediocrity. We're always looking to grab more. Why? Because we are created for more. We were created to live our best life. And by the way, when Melissa was speaking about write the things that bring you joy, this is what I want to say about joy. Joy isn't something that's temporal. Happiness could be, our happiness can go, our happiness could come, but joy never leaves us. In the middle of challenges, we could still be in joy about something. We could still say, oh, I'm having a challenge in this area, but because I know what brings me joy, I know what my core values are. This is something that will not leave me. And so ensure that you're in alignment. So write that down. And maybe you may have more than five, but write everything down that brings you more joy. Is it your family? For me, something that brings me joy in the middle of all of my challenges I may be having is seeing my grand loves. I always say that no matter, they could be having their worst day and they could be crying, but when I see them, it just brings me complete joy. And when that joy comes, nothing can remove that joy. So look at the things that bring you joy. It is the joy that you have that will bring you strength. Your joy will bring you strength. All right. So one of the things that also brings me joy, y'all, is my retreats. I am hosting coming up in May, Cartagena. We are going to Cartagena, Colombia for my retreat. And my retreat is a transformational retreat that not only will bring you joy, it has brought me joy, but it brings forth healing. It brings forth so many things. It allows you to sit with you, to experience being still, to experience finding who you really are, to really rediscover yourself and redesign your life. And so I'm inviting you to join me this spring in May 12th through the 19th to Cartagena, Colombia. Space is limited. Space is limited. And we're going to give you the information right now. If you desire more information, please feel free to reach out to me. Everything will be posted on social media, on the I Have Today channel. And so be sure that if you can make it, you don't want to miss this. I'm so happy that you joined me today for creating your desired life. Your life is your life, and you have the power. The power lies within you to create the life that you want. Here is the question. What is the life that you want? What's the life that you want? Today, we talked about healing yourself, and Melissa Brown gave us so many steps, gave us great insight to how we can take those steps to heal ourselves. I want to encourage you to do that, to begin to look at where is it that I need healing. Don't look at what you don't want, but look at what you do want. What do you want? What do you want in your life that's going to bring you joy, that's going to bring you peace, and yes, that's going to bring you happiness? What do you want in your life that's going to create the desire that you have? Make sure that you get in alignment. I'm so glad that you joined us. Thank you so much. I will see you next time. Take care. And listen, that quote, right, that you receive, make sure that you use that, look at it, and have it govern your life for the week. That the wounds, right, is where the light comes through. I'll see you next time. Bye.